Perfect. So this is now recording, and this is
Mm.
very exciting. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome, Elina. This is, I was saying just before clicking record, this is a very exciting moment. Both Marcos and I are really, really happy to have you here. So for those of you who don't know Elina, she's the co-founder of Lumi Power Yoga, the place where we go and do yoga, and also the place where we experience community in a beautiful way. So it's been an inspiration for us in many ways and for Find Your Flouu. And we're really excited to have you here. So just to start, I would say maybe could you introduce yourself? A couple of words, yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure getting up to things with you and under your brand now and your business, which I'm very excited about. And so thank you for having me here. So like you said, I'm Elina, and I'm originally from Sweden, moved to the UK 98 to try and break loose from expectations that I thought others had on me, but actually I had on myself. And now I've returned back to Sweden 24 years later, and with a ton of experiences from London and worldwide that I get to bring with me and start again here in Sweden with my family, 2 girls and husband. So that's the brief introduction. Introduction. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And thank you for starting there. And I think it's your experience is really, really interesting, and I'm excited to like talk a little bit more in depth into that, what you've learned so far from like coming from Sweden, moving to London and other places in the world, and now returning to Sweden. And I guess like with Find Your Flouu, and really what we're trying to do with this podcast and these conversations is to try to learn from others what works for them in their mental health journey, and to stay well. And a lot of what you do in your job and your mission and is supporting others as well in their health journey. And I'm interested and curious in your own health journey, and kind of like what you've learned in your journey, and maybe how you ended up in the position where you are today, teaching yoga. And not only teaching yoga, because we know that what you guys do is more than that. It's about community, it's about supporting others, and yoga is a tool for that. So yeah, the long way to ask the question is really maybe we start from how you ended up where you are, and then we go for there.
How I ended up, well, starting in Sweden, first of all, I left Sweden to find myself. And I kept searching, I kept doing things in order to find out who I was versus what people said about who I was. I come from a very small, we're just putting it into perspective, I come from a very small village in Sweden where there's been generation after generation after generation, and in my perception, assumptions of, well, you're the granddaughter of, or you're the daughter of, and therefore you must be. And that was my experience. I'm not saying necessarily that's the truth, but that was my experience of my first few years in Sweden. So I wanted to be able to tell people who I am myself. I wanted it to come from me. So I left Sweden to find myself. And I stumbled across many tools. And the strongest to date is Baptiste Power Yoga, where I learned it's not about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. Choosing who do you step in to be today? Who are you going to choose to be in this conversation, in your thinking pattern towards yourself? What are you adding in that's serving you? And what are you going to let go of that is no longer serving you? And I find this interesting, finding myself or creating myself. And I think it's a combination in some ways, because when we strip away that which is cluttering our space, we come back to something really deep and true in our core. But we need to do something with it in order to make the day work, make this life work, make you work in the surroundings that you're in. So I stumbled across Baptiste and got all the tools to create, who do I want to be in this life? What do I want to get up to? And I got very clear that from being moved by that mentality and philosophy, I want to move others. And probably what you're feeling, Nathaly, as well, is it's about community. It's about supporting and uplifting each other. It's about feeling that we belong. I think all of us have gone through a phase when we feel we're different, we don't belong, we're disconnected, something's wrong with us. Something along those lines come up in life, or something like, I'm on my own here, that creates a real conflict between the mind and the heart. And the journey there allows us, the journey on the yoga mat for me, via Baptist methodology, allows me to connect my mind to my heart versus separation, and then my mind to my body, and then my body to you, from me to you and everyone around us. That's creating such a beautiful platform for physical and mental health.
It's so beautiful what you're sharing, and there are many things that you touched upon, and the first one around, you know, that idea of finding yourself versus creating yourself, and you mentioned that you left your home country to find yourself, and I see it a lot around friends, and even like in my own experience, like that idea of needing to go far away to find ourselves. And I wonder, like, after everything that happened, we now fast forward to where you are now versus when you left Sweden. Do you think we need to go far away to find ourselves?
Never. We're always there, right? And thank you for bringing that up, because that was missing from my share big time. Wherever you are, wherever you go, there you are. And destination doesn't allow you to find yourself any more than standing in your own shoes right now. Absolutely. And but I do think challenging yourself, being willing to take risks, and really you start to get to know your own core strength and power and possibility as a human being through your way of getting out of your comfort zone. And maybe then moving away from home is one strategy to get you to see your own power. Versus staying in the comfort zone and waiting for it, because I don't think your clarity and connection is there, or the connection is there already, but sitting down waiting for the penny drop is not going to happen. It's exposing yourself that allows you to come back to I believe.
And I agree, and I think, you know, many times I talk to people, and I've been there as well myself, thinking like, oh, you know, I could be this version of myself, or I could do that, but obviously if I had the time to go and retreat in Bali for 6 months and like practice yoga and like forget about all like stresses of life in general, and that's lovely, and I think there's space for that. And like I've learned so much as well from my travels, and I also left my country like a long time ago, and it's a journey that has allowed me to grow in a way that it's been amazing. But also I do think if we don't have the opportunity to go far away, or to, you know, take ourselves out of our daily life, there is also space to connect with ourselves, with others, and we often don't need that much, I think, to do that. And it's a barrier that with this work and with this podcast and Find Your Flow is a barrier that I would like to break down, because essentially it's a misconception, I think, that exists nowadays. So I thought it was good just to bring it up.
I love it. I love this quote of you find yourself through the service of others. I think that's really beautiful. I don't know if I found myself yet though, Nat. I don't know. I think a lot of people would agree with me as well. Like I don't know if I really know myself yet. I feel there's more to come.
But that, I guess that's the beauty, right? Because we're always in this journey, and we go back to this thought of impermanence, and that yoga is based on that, right? That we're all changing, everything is changing all the time. So believing that we found ourselves would mean that we are like it's something static.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And we're not.
We're not.
We're even, 2 or 3 years, we don't even have a single cell left. From a physical point of view, the skeleton is changed when 2 or 3 years have gone. Our brain has changed depending on what we've been up to. It's very little. We are human processes. But that maybe then the finding is something deeper than the human process, or something more connected than that, beyond that.
Yeah. Maybe it's like what we're here for, really. Just to keep finding ourselves.
Keep finding the true north, that's a concept that probably if you listen to this podcast is unusual. But keep aligning ourselves to our heart, don't you think? How I align my body today, how I align my actions today to my heart might be different to what it was yesterday. But don't you think that through yoga we wake up the body and the mind so that we can keep aligning, keep feeling in, keep working intuition through the body into action, into life, into service?
Completely. Like I started my journey with yoga in a very physical way. I kept coming back because I just liked the way it felt in my body. I had a lot of tension in my back, a lot of tension in my hips, and just going to yoga felt really good. Until at some moment it changed and it stopped being this like physical practice, and I understood that there was something else quite big behind this like whole physical practice that is almost like a window that lets you see into your heart, into your mind, my energy, my emotions. And every time I go to my mat is a time for that connection to happen, to and just to explore what's happening inside. And sometimes is interesting, sometimes it's very busy and not easy to pay attention to what's going on, and that's also okay. And then the physical practice still very healthy for my body, I believe, but it's more than that, I think.
I love that, like a plugging into something.
How was it for you and your yoga journey?
It started like yours a little bit. It was very physical. It came into life when I was struggling a lot. I was struggling in a long-term relationship, and to the point there was abuse from my partner to me. And then just to make that clear, and I was struggling financially, and I was utterly confused about what to do with life. So I didn't really know where to put the pieces together at all, like where to begin. I have no stability right now. And I was fumbling around seeking to things to latch on to. When I realized that for 2 years, there was this woman in a crystal shop telling me, you need to start yoga. And she's been going on about it, and I've been resisting it because I thought I had to be a perfect human being to come into the yoga class. First of all, I had to have a certain body shape. And then I have to have my SHIT together. Excuse my language. I had to have it all together to enter into that, in case the yoga teacher saw through me. and I was faulty material. And so I kind of, but I was at that breaking point. I had no other choice. There was like, I don't know where to begin. So I'm just going to begin with getting on the mat for 90 minutes, 30 days, just to forget about solving life. Really take myself out of that pressure that was building up from knowing what to do, and just get a gap. And I felt so good. I felt it was very physical, but I felt so good. It was so physical that I had no time or energy to focus on anything else but where I was placing my foot, how I was breathing. And that was relieving, decompressing me physically and spiritually. I felt so good. I thought, well, if I can make 90 minutes a day feel good, what if I make 3 hours out of my day feel good? What else can I do? I can't do that kind of yoga for 3 hours, but what else can I do? And I'm starting to get to know myself to a point, know myself that, as if I found myself, and I felt I did. I started to listen into my heart. What feeds me? And let's bring that in. What goes against me right now? Let's put that away. Let's take it out. Let's not add that into the space. And very soon after the 30 days, I just wanted to open a yoga studio. I wanted to share it. I was so moved. I needed to move my body to be moved spiritually or mentally, emotionally. I needed to move my body to get there. So you'll love this. I designed a studio space that resonated, and all the stairs at Lumi are there. There are aspects of that space that was in that drawing back when Lumi happened. Then the opening of our studio didn't happen until, must have been about 10 years later.
Wow.
It was a book back in the storage box that I found later on, and remember that this is my sat nav. This is my vision. This is my mission, and it's been growing in the background because it moved me. And it moved me towards a dream of opening a space where we all belong. One legs, two legs. We're, perfectly imperfect. Not a space where you feel the pressure that I felt that stopped me from coming to yoga for 2 years,
Yeah.
But a place that everyone will want to hang out as they are, not as they think they should be. That was a big, big thing there.
Wow.
I lost track now, but lost track. Did I wear off?
I absolutely love this story, and I think there is something so powerful on the power of like setting an intention and just letting it manifest. And it's not that you just draw that and then just went and sat on the couch for 10 years and then Lumi appeared. Obviously not. But there is something so magical and beautiful around like being so clear with what you want in life, and but also not being disencouraged with how life unfolds. Because it was 10 years of wait. And I'm imagining that a lot of different things happened in between that drawing and opening Lumi. But there is something really beautiful on first, like being able to listen to your heart, really what comes from within, and then getting the actual space to be able to transform that into words, a vision, a drawing, whatever that's it, and being really clear on what you want in life and allowing that to be your compass in life.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds like your story is like that.
Yeah. It is like that, and I love that you bring it up, because intention settings happen, and we have to be careful. They grow as seeds and we steer our mind towards something. Hopefully it's something the heart is aligned with, and sometimes it's not, right? Same with mantras, words, phrases we repeat. It either comes from this space or it comes from a different space. It comes from fear, but it will manifest. If that's what we repeat, that's what we will create. And you know, of course, I didn't attach to the yoga studio happening, but my heart and my whole body craved the yoga practice. It craved the mat. It craved I kept coming back to my practice. I kept coming back to that which I love. And it lined up to a yoga studio that eventually happened. And the same was with the move to Sweden, and the same was with finding this home. I only had to get clear. But I said, you know what, Nathaly, that's the hard part, getting clear. What is it that you really want? What is it that we want? And that can be a foggy area, because it's also entering into, what do I think others would want me to do? Or what would I do to impress others? That whole trap of impressing others, feeling like have to do some great things for other people's admiration. And that is a trap, and an easy one to fall into. And it gets really foggy, because it's not necessarily the same joy that the emission from the heart will bring, right? But it's not an easy one to catch. And that's when a lot of suffering happens, when life is not happening in the way that the heart is aligned, or what you really want to have happen versus what you're making happen. So the challenge there to set your sat nav is really just coming back to connecting with yourself.
Yeah.
Making a choice.
Obviously, like, I think this is like the question I'm about to ask, like the answer is going to be different for everyone. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts around how do we connect with our heart?
That is such a good question.
It is I think it's a hard question to answer. But yeah, it's like we keep talking about it. We refer to it in yoga and in many areas of our lives. But I don't think no one really teaches us how to connect with our hearts, and how to create a space for that. So I'm wondering, how is it for you?
How do I do it? You know, I feel it so vividly in my body nowadays compared to what I used to do, because I do my yoga practice to help me awaken the body enough to feel the sensation of joy, the thing that moves through me. It was the other day, my husband Ari said, you should really do a workshop here in Sweden. I hadn't really thought about it yet. I thought, you know, my priority is the kids and teacher training and classes and everything. And said, and then I came up, my mind did no, but I couldn't help smiling. You know, I felt the energy of it. Of course I will. And it's only on a small scale of a workshop, but the mind and the heart disconnect for a second. There was humor in it. I was justifying why not. And I was feeling all the joy of it at the same time. It's hilarious. But I think as yogis or someone who's got a mindful practice, it doesn't have to be yoga. It can be any other practice. Your mind is connected to your body and you're sensing in. I think we awaken the body as a tool for accessing. I can't speak now. accessing the joy, accessing the energy of the heart, what we're leaning towards, gut feeling, intuition that moves us. Something deep here moves us, and then we know, okay, I must do it. And then this one, we can hear it. It will be there, but we don't listen to it. We don't follow it. We might hear it, but we don't lead with it. And that is a big one for me, distinguishing between story and narrative and reality, or even so noticing what physically moves me. in choices in life.
Yeah. I love that, and the allowing, recognizing that feeling of joy when it comes, and I guess love and any other emotions. But I'm imagining that it's also true for like the no so pleasant emotions as well. Like sometimes we, notice feelings of sadness or anger or grief, and it's, for me, it's also allowing space for those emotions as well, and understanding that they are there, and then just making a decision of what you want to do with them. But for me, really, it's a similar experience to you, but for me the hardest part is creating a space where I'm able to feel those emotions and put a name to it. I sometimes go through life really fast, distracted, and I might have an emotion or something kind of like bothering over here, and I'm not allowing space to, feel or process that, and then therefore start to act in like automatic, or like doing things that I might not be 100% happy with them after. And then I just reflect back, and it's like, oh, okay, I understand this was happening, this emotion was there, and I then say this, or like snapped or whatever. So for me, the hardest part is really, it's almost like slowing down, and not necessarily doing less things, but just going at a pace that allows me to understand what's happening in the body and with emotions, to then reacting in the right way.
I love that, Nathaly. Yeah, I love the allowing. The heart is, it's meant to be felt, all the emotions, right? It's meant for grief, it's meant for sadness, it's meant for joy and love and all the flavors that makes us experience this life as humans, and yeah, not suppressing it. I love it. I think on that, just going on a little bit from what you said, and going at a pace where you can keep up, or finding places where you can decompress, so that we don't snap or react. And I still snap, I still react, you probably still do. And for anyone who's listening to this podcast, it's not like Nathaly and I have reached a high place in life.
We haven't.
No, or that we got into some sort of destination. But it is understanding or creating that gap between reaction inwardly to something, to spreading it outwardly, and maybe have that little moment, that little gap of reflection in between, distinguishing between, is this true, or is this me adding to the truth, twisting the truth, or whatever it is? Because I think it's easy for the mind to add stories to something, and it becomes a physical reaction. It becomes the whole world. It takes over everything. And it's so powerful to start the day gearing your mind into what you want to have happen in your life, so that when things happen, you know what you stand for. I find just knowing, what am I here to do now? And allow for life to be life, because we can't control that. We can't control that.
Yeah, we can.
But one other thing I wanted to add to all of this is my mental complaint department that exists. And I don't know if you can relate to it, but the moment we start complaining about something, we start to also complain about everything. It's the cortisol releases, and it's almost wearing shades of complaint color. And we look into life through this lens, finding the problems and reacting upon everything irrelevantly, probably. So that's something I need to thank God for daily. Not coming from something's wrong here, but coming from, we're connected, and what's working here.
I love that. And I find it difficult as well, because the environment where we live, it's a lot about finding the gaps and finding what's missing, finding what's lacking in our life. And like everyone is trying to convince us that we need to buy many things to find happiness, and like something is not quite right, and therefore like we need to do all this stuff. So it's quite easy to go into that pattern of either complain or thinking that I'm missing something or lacking something. And I think that what you were mentioning just made me think about the practice of yoga and mindfulness in general, about not attaching ourselves to many things, and in this sense not being attached to complaints or to external thoughts that are not truth. But at the same time, I struggle quite a lot with that concept personally, because I do feel that sometimes thinking about not attachment could also lead to almost like indifference. And I wonder what's your take on all of that, and like how do you find the right balance between being centered and not attached, but also not being indifferent, really?
I think my balance is instant forgiveness when I trip up, or begin again and things like that, because I don't know is my answer really to that question. How to strike a balance between not attaching to still not giving up, not giving up, attaching or not giving up, latching on or pushing away, rejecting. And I don't, on a very simple level, Ujjayi breathing helps me moving something intentionally without attaching to an outcome. Yoga practice does that. But living it all the time is being the seer in it all, I think. Stepping up and seeing, oh, there's Elina doing her thing again, totally from the ego. Oh, look at her, she's doing something now. This is working. She's letting it be. And being the observer of it all is a place where it allows me to just be human and not strive to be, not punishing myself for when things go in a way that I think, yoga teachers shouldn't do that, and being kind and compassionate, that we're all humans. We have brains that are created for survival and that are created to complain and see the risk, and we have the power through our practices to reshape the brain and move it towards gratitude and acceptance. But we do need a certain, we call it in yoga tapas, discipline to move us forward to find happiness, I believe. Because if we live content on doing nothing, it will tip over to discontent. So something needs to push and take risks. I probably have veered off the topic a little bit here. Actually, I probably have. But
I don't think so. I don't think so. We're still in the same, thinking about attachment or indifference, and what you're saying is that, like there is, despite of being attached or not attached, there's still this like inner fire and energy that needs to be alive.
And I see it as the 4 seasons a little bit. In springtime, the grass and the plantation need aggression to push through. They need a certain power to push through. And then in the fall, we let go, we drop off. Like it was just lovely. Yesterday, I was picking raspberries and I lifted the branch and the raspberries just let go by themselves because it was that time. And when you look at that, that exists a little bit in a day-to-day basis too. It's time to push and it's time to let go. And to strike the balance, I don't know, maybe it's just keeping on pushing and letting go.
Yeah.
I don't think balance is doing nothing or neither. It's holding space for both.
I love that answer. And as you say, I don't think there is an easy answer to this, or like a, step by step of how to do it. But as long as we, at least for me, as long as I keep coming back to, my foundations, and like sometimes it's the breath, sometimes it's just like connecting and stopping, sometimes it's pushing and moving and allowing all my energy to, to move, and thinking about, then there is no real outcome I should be expecting out of all of this, rather than just, living life at the fullest, and like, I don't know how this is going to unfold. But as long as I keep coming back to, my foundations, and I allow life to flow in the way that it's meant to be, I guess that's part of it. And like, we come back to the beginning of this conversation, which is all about, finding ourselves in whichever, every day, and in whichever season we are. Yeah,
that's right. And that we're here now, right? We're not, better is not somewhere else or tomorrow.
I love that. Yeah.
But still, I certainly act as if things are going to get better, or I will have solved it. And then maybe there is nothing to solve.
All we have is now.
Yeah, right. What do we add into now? What do we let go of now? And it is a sponge effect of pulling in and letting go. But I think we get better at it the moment the mind gets out of the way a little bit, and we tap into the intuition. We tap in through the body. The body is so wise, so many tools of smell, and nervous system picks up on so many things that intellectually takes us longer to get there, and often we don't get there. So to build this trust with the body again, and let the body respond in situations, we'll know when to stay and when to go, what to pull in and what to let go of.
Yeah, it's back to that thought of creating the space to be able to allow the body to talk to us, or all the heart, all emotions, or just like listening, really, what's going on.
Yeah, your community is right here between mind, body, heart, fingers, toes, muscles, bones.
Yes.
And creating, community with that.
I love that. Before finishing, I actually had one more question I want to ask, because I was just looking at the time and I think it's been a while. But I do have one question I wanted to ask. You were mentioning in one of your answers around what's expected from a yoga teacher, and the type of things that you can or shouldn't do because you're a teacher. And like, that made me think about being in a role of a teacher, and in a role of service is beautiful in so many ways, because in my experience, I learn and gain so much out of it. But also, being in a role of service means that it's important to also think about yourself and filling your cup so you are able to serve others. So for anyone that is listening that is also in a role of service, I would love to hear from you, and perhaps any from your experience, anything that you could share that helps you step into that role of service every day.
The service fills my cup. It really is that simple. I don't need to prepare. Of course I do my practice, but I don't need my practice in that way. The fulfillment come through the class, through sharing the space with others, through empowering them to empower others. And it becomes a really beautiful recharge space where me as a teacher and the students on the mat are exchanging. There's no difference. They could be standing, talking the poses, and I could be on the mat. But there is a real exchange of energy there in that moment that I feel so fulfilled and puts me in such a wonderful full space, more so than on my own on the mat. I get more fulfilled by being in that space of teaching.
I love that. That's beautiful.
It's simple, but it's different for everyone.
Yeah. But thank you for sharing that. And yeah, before sharing, I like to ask one last question in general to everyone that comes in here, and it's if there is anything that you would be able to say to your younger self, any advice, any tip, any word, or anything to help you go through your journey in terms of mental health and physical health and health in general, what would that advice be?
Stop looking around and start doing what moves you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And that's a beautiful way to end this conversation. Let's all allow space to be moved. Thank you for the inspiration and for your time as well. And I guess if anyone wants to hear more from you or from the studio, where can they find you? Do you want to share a little bit of that before we close?
Well, I'm in Sweden, so to find me physically from London, it's rare. But I'm coming into Lumi studio in Hammersmith, Lumi Power Yoga in Hammersmith, London, and I'll be there in September, the 14th, 15th, 16th, or 15th, 16th, 17th, to teach and share space with you guys, wonderful community. So I tap in to that. I teach live stream classes. Now it's going on a little break for August, but September onwards, I'll be teaching via Lumi schedule on live stream. I would love to have anyone there, all of you there.
Yeah.
So that's the main place at the moment.
Amazing. Yeah. And I can just say that Lumi is one of the most beautiful spaces in London. It's just like anyone that is listening and haven't been there, like I highly recommend. It's a big part of my life, and it's just a beautiful space for community and moving. And just to reiterate that no one needs to have anything special body or special flexibility or anything to come into yoga. That's kind of like the first thing I've heard anyone telling me. I haven't been to yoga because I'm not flexible enough, which is a lie. Like you don't need to be anything to come. So yeah, if you haven't been, I highly recommend. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful space. You won't regret it. And yeah, we get the joy to have and share time with Elina any sometimes. Now in September.
And then retreats, teacher
my
training.
God, yes.
and other things. Yeah, and you teach a class there, so they get to enjoy you.
Yes. Yeah. If anyone wants to come and practice with me, I'm around in Lumi as well, which is amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time, for sharing a little bit more of your story. Thank you for creating such an amazing community. Again, like big inspiration for us, and for me, really, what makes me call London a home, my home, is the community I have. A big part of that community is Lumi. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
It's a co-creation, as you know.
Yeah, well, a big virtual hug. Can't wait to see you soon in real life.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, thank you for being here, really.
Yes, thank you for having me. And to anyone who's listening, just keep walking one foot forward at a time and be yourself.
I love that. Thank you.
Take
Let
care.
me just stop recording.